Hey, my guest today is Derek Osgood. He's a former marketing exec turned founder building Ignition, the collaborative go-to-market platform helping product and marketing teams get new products to market faster and more effectively. Before this, he was an early hire at Rippling, where he stood up the product marketing function and helped scale the company to 20 million in ARR. As product marketing leader everywhere from startups to major brands like PlayStation, Derek has launched over 100 products, and his products have generated over 1 billion revenue. Now he's building the platform he wished he had all along the way. Derek, you ready to take us to the top?
Yeah, let's do it, Nathan. Excited.
Awesome. First off, this is like one of those things, man. We are launching products like crazy at FounderPath. This problem is like a mix of like Google Docs, Apple Notes. Someone is sold on like Jira, so we sprinkle in some Jira and ClickUp, mixed with like handwritten sketches from the last team retreat. It's terrible. Like, why hasn't something like this existed before?
I have no idea. It's this cluster at every single company. I mean, I've seen this at dozens of companies that I've consulted for, that I've been at in-house, and it's always just this dumpster fire of tools hodgepodge together. And the real thing is none of the tools actually do any of the work involved. So they're all like systems that are just built for documenting and tracking the work in what is a really specified and like important process in any company. And so teams end up having to do all of the actual research and competitive intel in a completely separate place that ends up completely siloing the information away from the teams that need it in order to execute the process. So it's, I think that, probably a big part of why it hasn't been built so far is just it kind of requires a product marketer to start it because of the fact that it is such a product marketing specific function. And there's not a lot of product marketers who start companies, honestly. And, I think like I haven't seen too many of them. So that sort of is my only hunch on why this hasn't existed. But it's a messy problem, and, it's tough to solve, but important.
So before I dive deep into like the actual product, because I want to go deep here, how do you think about pricing on this thing, right? What is your own go-to-market? What's the average customer pay per month to use this?
Yeah. So we charge on a per editor basis. So, our whole structure is based around the people who are actually like leading the launch process. One of the big downsides to all of those other tools that you were talking about there is that they charge for every single user seat. So a lot of the teams that need the information involved in the launch process, like for example, sales and support, it doesn't make sense with their business model for you to actually have seats and for them to even be able to access the information that they need. Hence why you have a lot of like meetings and stuff. So yeah, we charge, at our base tier, $29 per editor per month. And then, at our kind of primary tier that most teams use, it's $99 per editor per month. So, small teams end up looking somewhere in the like 3 to 10K range, on an ACV basis. So,
Yep. Is that your sweet spot right now? Like before you really start to go up market or mid market?
We have teams of all sizes. So we have, big companies right now like Square and SmartRent using us. And then we also have, a bunch of like small 5 to 10 person teams using us. We even have some solopreneurs using us as well for their own like personal launches. So,
So now I'm curious. Don't mention the name of the customer, but what your largest company, how many editors do they have on one, like for one brand?
Yeah. So the biggest editor count right now is actually, it's only 15, but they plan on expanding that pretty significantly. I think they're planning on like doubling or tripling over the next couple of months. They're still kind of getting out of the implementation phase.
Okay. So 15 editors at $99 a month. Your biggest customer is sort of like $1,500 a month today, something like that.
Yeah.
Really interesting. Oh, what's going on there, YouTube? Good to see you guys. Now imagine this. You love watching these interviews with SaaS founders, but imagine if we took all of the valuation data out from over 2,807 interviews I've done manually. Saves you a lot of time. Well, we've done this. We've built it into the beautiful interface inside of FounderPath. Check this out. I'll show you how you can access this in a second, but you log in, you connect your Stripe account, you see your valuation real time, you can see what it changed over the past 88 days, and even set goals for valuation this year. Now, the secret to valuation is there's many different ways to value a SaaS business. So the reason you're going to see 3 or 4 different valuations inside of your FounderPath dashboard, this is all free by the way, is because depending on who's doing the buying of your SaaS company, you're going to get a different valuation. A VC is going to pay a different valuation. Private equity firm is different. If you're going to do a minority sale, that's different. And if you sell the whole business, that's a different valuation. You can see all those when I hover over here. Right. So the teal is what a VC would pay, yellow is what private equity, and red is if you sold the whole thing outright. Now, what's cool about this is not built off random data. Again, you guys hear these interviews on YouTube. All these data are built from real-time valuation data points founders share with us on the show. So traction, 1.2 million, seed round, 3.7 raise, they sold 22% of their business. Go in here and filter by the event. Maybe you only want to see companies that have sold the whole business. Well, here are a bunch that have been acquired, the valuation and the multiple. Maybe you're going out right now and you're raising your seed round. Well, go in here and look at all this recent seed deals that went down, what they raised, what valuation they raised at, and what percent that they sold. There's never been a larger data set of SaaS valuations than what you can get now inside of FounderPath, and we're thrilled to bring it to you. All right, we're going to go back to the YouTube video here in a second, but if you want to check this tool out, if you want to jump in and sign up, you can check it out for free to get your valuation at this link, founderpath.com/products/valuations. Or if you go to founderpath.com and hover over products, click on get your valuation here and go ahead and sign up to give it a whirl. Again, all that valuation data live right inside the platform. I hope to see you there. All right, let's jump back into the interview. Man, so this is great. Okay, I want to come back to how you plan to expand. Like your net dollar retention obviously will be dependent on how many people you can classify as an editor, like who's needed in the process. But let's go back to sort of like base case here for a second. These small editing teams, like you call them editors, but what are their job titles on LinkedIn today?
Yep. So typically it's a product marketing manager or a product manager. The role of product marketing ends up being done by people with a couple of different titles. So sometimes it's like a just generic marketing manager. If you're talking about like CPG companies, it ends up being a brand manager. So there's a variety of different like shapes and sizes of product marketing, but functionally it is the product marketing function. And then, sometimes the product manager ends up being the kind of primary collaborator with them. They do have, there's smattering of like other marketing folks across the editor spectrum as well. So marketing ops teams are often involved. And then oftentimes you have like a comms person. Sometimes some design teams are editor seats. So it does vary a bit company to company, but primarily we go after, the product marketing team as kind of our main entry point.
Interesting. And how does this, so if I was looking at this and saying, how could I get this done without paying for Havignition? I would use something that my like development team uses, like Linear, right? A project management tool, because that's really what's going to drive if this thing gets released on time. And then I like sort of figure out a way to make the engineering Trello board or Kanban board work for all the marketing activities. What are you building inside of your platform that we're not going to see inside of project management tools for developers already?
Yeah. So, one of the big downsides of doing that is just you are intermixing two totally different lines of work that have completely different needs in terms of communication. So it's not just about project management when you're talking about launching stuff. And a lot of people think about their launches as the checklist. And so we do all the project management stuff, and you can kind of replace Linear or Jira or whatever you're using on the dev side with our product when you're talking about marketing. But there's a lot of strategic documentation involved as well. So you also need the ability to actually document this stuff in written format in a way that's not buried within tasks. So we're taking the kind of project management, we're marrying that to documentation. We're then marrying that to asset management. So you can actually store all of the marketing assets that are created in the launch process, manage approvals on those, and then push them into the tools that you need. But the real magic here is that we're actually taking all that stuff, and that's just the baseline, like how do you document and like plan the launch? And we're marrying that to tools that help with research upstream and then downstream communication of those plans. So upstream, we have competitive intelligence tools and customer research tools where we'll help you collect customer feedback into your roadmap, identify
SurveyMonkey type form, video recordings.
Exactly. And then we'll pipe that into the planning process itself. And then downstream, we help with communicating that stuff to all the teams internally that need it, because those teams don't need one kind of master plan and they don't need to just see the list of tasks. What they need is specified bits and pieces of that planning information. So your sales team just needs to know what's the messaging, how are we talking about this, what assets are available to us. So you can push just that content to them through email or Slack. So they don't need to go like sift through a tool in order to find it. And then on top of that, we're also helping with some post-launch measurement and doing a couple other things that you just can't really get in a pure play project management tool. But ultimately, what you're getting is full end-to-end management, all the way from customer research through to strategy, through to the post-launch communication and measurement.
Got it. Okay, and put this, I guess, how many brands do you have using the platform today as customers?
Yep. So we've got about 800 companies on the platform right now. Again, ranging from small little companies to very large ones, and it's across a range of industries too. Some of them are SaaS companies, some of them are CPG product companies. So all across the map.
And if you looked at, like, if you took the number of brands you have on the platform and then divided into that, right, the number of number of editors in your case, what's the average team size, would you say?
Yeah, so the average team size, it's probably around 3 or 4 editors in a company. But that varies dramatically based on which segment you look at. So if you look at kind of our larger segments, it's closer to 10 to 11 folks, and then if you look at the smaller groups, it's 2 or 3.
Yeah, okay. And put this on a timeline for us. When did you write the first line of code for Ignite?
Yeah, so we wrote the first line of code in March of 2021. So I met my co-founder in December of 2020. We kind of started thinking about it, kicking around, the idea, doing some idea validation through January, and then we, did some mock-ups, closed some customers, closed a round of funding in February, and then started building in March.
February of 2021.
Yes, 2021.
And what was the seed? How much was the seed round?
Yes, we raised a pre-seed that was about 1.8 million, and then we raised another round of funding in December of last year. So total raised, we've raised about 5 million, and basically that's when we launched our beta in January of this year.
Got it. So you sort of closed like Jan 1st, basically another 3.1 million on top of the 1.8 you already raised.
Yep.
What makes this so expensive? I mean, you're giving, obviously these are, most pre-seed rounds, you're selling 20% equity. Seed rounds, you're selling 15 to 20%. I assume you're probably right in the standard range, right?
Yep.
Okay. So let's say you've been diluted on average 15% now twice. Like, why do you need this money to get going? Why couldn't you scrape by and bootstrap and keep 100%?
Yeah, so we likely could have for a while. I think, part of it is my co-founder needed to take a salary. Also, the other component here is we are building a pretty large surface area platform. So in order to solve this problem, you really have to solve all of the 10,000 little paper cuts that are involved in it. And it's a pretty big bundled aggregate solution. It's very hard to build just one individual part of this. Because for example, if we built just the project management component of it, we would get sucked into building purely a project management tool for most of the life cycle of the company, because that's just where customer demand would end up pulling us. And we probably would have never had the time to devote to building some of the tools that help with automating a lot of the other work involved in the process. So I think mostly it's the surface area of the product. We just had to build a lot of stuff in order to have it be meaningfully differentiated from what you're already kind of hacking together in a documentation tool or a project management tool.
That's fair. How many folks are on the team today? And of the team size, how many are engineers?
Yeah, so the team's about 21 people now, fully distributed. So, we're pretty capital efficient in the team that we're building. And almost all of them are engineers. So I'm the only, actually, we just hired our first marketer. So we now have 2 business people, myself and him. And then our QA engineer and our designer, and then the rest are all engineers.
So tell me about, you mentioned remote and capital efficiency. Have you found, is it the Eastern Bloc? Is it Argentina? Is it somewhere else? Where do you love your developers to come from?
All of the above. So we have folks in India, we have folks in Eastern Bloc, we have folks in Argentina, our designers.
Okay, that's rare. Most times people find one area, they build around that. You could just argue diversified, right? But do you have a point person in each of those? How'd you find the first person, say in India, for example?
Yes, we have a point person in each. So the first person in India, he came through AngelList. He was actually our first hire, and so he came through AngelList when we were originally forming the company, and we just loved him and we lucked out.
What about Poland?
So Poland I sifted through every single designer profile on Dribbble, and I found one that I loved and pinged him directly. Argentina, we ended up going through a recruiter. So we knew that we wanted to build a team in a US overlapping time zone. So, we wanted to build out a team there. So we found a recruiter there. Again, lucked out with a great point person. He ended up bringing one of his friends on as a referral. And then, the Eastern Bloc was through an agency that we originally hired when we first started building. And we've just continued building out over there.
That's amazing. Can you share the original agency you worked with when you started?
It's an agency called Everoni.
Veroni?
Everoni.
Like if people listening right now, should they go Google them and use them too? Were they good?
Yeah, they're great. We love them.
Okay. Evroni?
Rone.
One, Evroni. Interesting. Very cool. I always love people, they find these agencies talent all over the world. It's crazy. Like I don't know, you're probably not gonna be able to answer this, but if you can, it'd be very valuable. 21 on the team, based in the US, building a great product. I look at the UI, it looks fantastic. With this distributed thing, and you talk about capital efficiency, what's your ignoring your salaries, like you and your founder, what's the all-in person fixed expense per month right now?
So on a per person basis?
No, don't tell me individual salaries. I mean just total headcount expense monthly, excluding founder salaries.
Oh, total headcount expenses is about 150K.
Okay, interesting. So, 150 times 12 divided by 20 people. Okay, that's an average. That's not okay. So not cheap. That's 90,000 on average per person. So these are not cheap salaries, but you're maybe getting better talent because you're looking around the whole world.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we did this, not necessarily just to save money, but more so because, we think that there's talent all over the planet. And, my co-founder, he used to work at Facebook, and he consistently says, our engineering team is as good or better than any of the engineering teams that I worked with at Facebook. So, yeah. I think we've gotten really lucky with some of our early hires, and they've ended up, continuing to flesh out a really nice quality team.
Yep.
All over the world.
Does it ever frustrate you when have you ever tried to motivate like someone to have Everoni with a little equity kicker, like to get more of their time, but they just don't understand it or they don't care about it? And you're like, oh, I can't use equity to motivate these folks. It's all cash.
It's funny. Yeah. I mean, like a couple of our folks, they have started to like kind of see the light on equity, and, they're like now excited by it. But I think it's definitely like, it's a totally different dynamic. If you go try and hire in Silicon Valley, everybody is demanding maximum equity, and like everywhere else in the world, I have to force it on people. I'm like, hey, look, you have to take equity because I want you to have a slice of the pie here. And they're like, I don't care, I don't want it. Like, it's all gravy.
Yep. Now, if we got the starter story there, we understand you got MVP going, we know your team size. Say if we take those 800 customers times an average of 3 editors a pop at $99 a head, that's a ARPU per brand of about $300 a month. Times 800. Can we sort of back into your MRR that way? Would that be fair? You're doing about $240 a month right now.
It's probably not totally fair. So a big chunk of those 800 companies also came through an AppSumo launch that we did. So, that is lifetime deals, and, they're not recurring revenue. So, and I actually don't really want to share revenue numbers at this point, but our revenue numbers are ticking up pretty decently, but we're not quite at that level yet.
Why does a guy like you that understands product and user feedback so much do a lifetime deal? Those people, they're not going to expand, they're not going to convert to a monthly, so it doesn't even help your cash flow. It doesn't help your valuation really, right? Because the lifetime deal destroys all the unit economics with SaaS. Why waste your time with a lifetime deal?
So I actually think that it is one of the most valuable things that we've done in the lifetime of the company. It was mostly for feedback. Like basically, we did our beta launch. The product was pretty broken when we did our beta launch, and we purposefully shipped something that we knew we weren't going to be like super happy with. And then we did a lot of work on it over the course of like Q1, Q2, and we decided, hey, we need to really stress test this before we go do any kind of like more concerted user acquisition and start scaling anything up. And so that was why we did the AppSumo deal, and we got tons and tons of feedback, and it was drastically more engaged feedback than I think we had been getting through the early part of the beta, just because people had paid up front. And, regardless of whether or not it was a lifetime deal or it was a recurring deal, we were getting much, much more valuable and like very tactical pressure testing of the product. So obviously,
but if you then go build all the things they complain about, are they going to pay you a bunch more and move to a monthly plan?
We don't care. I mean, like, honestly, if they end
but Derek, why? That's why I ask, right? You're getting feedback, but from the wrong people. In my opinion, if you go to a JCPenney shopper who got the free jeans for $5. They brought in a $10 discount. You don't want feedback on how to build world-class jeans from that person. They're going to bitch and moan, take up customer support, and they're going to guide you the wrong direction. So why do you care about that feedback, no matter how engaging it was?
Yeah, because honestly, the problems that are that user versus the problems that are a larger company user, they're almost identical when you're talking about launching products. Like I actually fundamentally disagree with the idea that they are the wrong user. They're just users that have a slightly smaller company that they're doing this in. But the problem, the feedback that they give us, it's identical to the feedback that we get from our larger customers. So it's not like we're getting, useless feedback here. It's just coming from a different source. And definitely there's like support burden there, but I will never complain about having to, spend a little bit more time on intercom because, for me, like more customer interaction is better. And, there's not so many of them that they're going to end up eating up all of our
How many are there? How many came from AppSumo?
A couple hundred.
Okay. So is it fair to say 50% of your total user base right now, when you said 800 customers, a couple hundred from AppSumo?
Probably about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you come up with a good way to convert them to monthly recurring? Like you spend all the time getting their feedback, you build great tools for them. Is there a paywall? Like, have you done well there?
Yeah. So basically, like once they reach a certain user threshold, we require that they convert to a paid deal on a recurring
editors
basis. Yeah. So once they've reached a certain threshold of editors, and then there's also like one tool in our product, which is basically our customer research tools, which is a paid add-on. And so, a decent chunk of them have also converted to the paid add-on.
Well, that's smart. There's a lot of people that do AppSumo deals. They give the whole thing away for free. There's no way to convert them. It's literally just like you just signed up for life because you sold a lifetime deal. So technically, if you have to shut down in 6 months, well, no, you better refund everybody, or 6 years even. It's a lifetime deal. But you've built a nice thing here. What is the editor limit? Is it 2 or 3 or 4? What is it?
So at the base tier, it's 3. And then if they bought one of the higher tiers, like the maximum is 10. So once they, there's a couple of agencies, for example, that they have, 10 plus users that they're using right now that, they're converting.
Got it. So when I asked you about how many customers you had earlier, really you've got 400 that are like true recurring customers that are non-AppSumo. Another 400 came from AppSumo, of which you've converted some portion of those into monthly recurring.
Something along those lines.
Okay, fair. Yeah. Very cool. All right, let me think if there's anything else that I missed here. I guess talk to me real quick about, as we wrap up here, about go-to-market. You've tied up and linked up very closely with a large community in the space. Walk me through how you did that. If there is a deal, is there an economic relationship there?
So they're investors. So they're CEOs and investor of ours. So basically, product marketing
that counts as an economic relationship for sure.
Yeah. So he was one of the first checks in. Actually, Product Marketing Alliance. They're one of the biggest communities of product marketers out there. I've been pretty engaged in the community since before ever even thinking about starting Ignition. Like I did some speaking for them early on when they were first getting started, and I think, generally we basically went to them first. They were one of the first people that we reached out to when we said, hey, we're going to go raise some money because we believe very deeply in the benefit of community. And, whether that's your own community or leveraging somebody else's, we wanted to be really tightly coupled with those guys, both for the imprimatur that their brand confers to us as experts in the space, but then also for promotional opportunities and partnership.
Did they ask you to pay for that placement, or did you get it for free since the founder invested?
So we've gotten some placement for free. We've also, done some like small paid sponsorships, but we've gotten pretty good discounts on that stuff as well.
What's small? Like I see sponsor. I put my email in to get the Dropbox doc send, the state of go-to-market report 2022. I see it says sponsored by Ignition. Are we talking like a 5K sponsorship or like 50K sponsorship there?
Typically they charge 50K. We didn't pay that. Like we paid a lot less than that.
I see. Okay, cool. So that's a good relationship for you guys. Makes sense for let them in as a strategic investor. Anything else in terms of go-to-market that's worked really well for you? We're talking very meta here. Go-to-market platform for go-to-market thing.
Yeah, totally. I mean, we've done a lot of cold outbound. So, we have mostly been using cold outbound outreach as our primary acquisition vehicle. A lot of our acquisition has come through word of mouth and just being, I call it like being a professional community member, just going and being active in Product Marketing Alliance, responding to people's questions. Being active in other forums and whatnot where people are talking about go to market and trying to get insight into this stuff. We've done a decent amount of podcasting as well. So we've since day one started to build out a pretty robust content program and podcasting program, both for SEO purposes and then also for a lot of thought leadership around this space because it's an area where there's a lot of content, but not a lot of it is very good content and very actionable. So, we've done a decent amount of content as well, but we've been pretty light on, our actual like marketing activity to date. We just kind of recently in the last month or two started kind of scaling up, trying to aggressively acquire folks.
I mean, do you think you can break $1 million run rate by January, or you guys are by December this year?
That's the goal. I mean, I think, we'll see if we end up getting there, but I think, the target is definitely to get to 1 million or so by, end of the year.
I see. Very cool. And obviously no revenue exactly 1 year ago, right?
Yeah. I mean, we had no revenue a couple of months ago.
Yeah. When was first revenue? What month?
First revenue was July.
June, July. Okay, got it. Okay, August, September. Yeah, so you're literally, well, I guess that's a little confusing, right? So if you have like hundreds of customers though paying $99, I mean, are a bunch of those free users or something?
Some of them are free, yeah. I mean, not all of them are paid yet. But yeah, we had a lot of them on the platform for free during the beta. We didn't start charging until actually July. And so that's when we started rolling people off of the free plan. We've been, relatively like light-handed in trying to convert the free users that were in our beta to paid users because you want the product to be at a point where they're excited about paying it before we start really pressuring them to do that. So, yeah.
All makes sense. Let's wrap up here, Derek, with the famous 5. Number 1, favorite book.
Favorite book of all time is it's a fantasy book, and it's called the King Killer Chronicle, Name of the Wind. But famous business book is Good to Great.
Number 2, is there a CEO you're following or studying?
I mean, still definitely following Parker at Rippling. I think have always admired him and continue to do that.
What's the last revenue number they put out publicly?
I believe the last public revenue number that they put out was a while ago, and I think it was something like 20 to 30 million.
But you left right around there then.
Yeah.
Okay, very cool. Number 3, favorite online tool for building Ignition.
Favorite online tool, Linear. Honestly, I love Linear.
Yeah, me too. Number 4, how many hours of sleep do you get every night?
4.
That's not healthy.
No. Realistically, it's probably closer to 6, but I think lately it's been 4.
Situation, married, single, kids?
Single.
Okay, no kids?
No kids, single. Just moved to LA. Moved out of the Bay. So.
And how old are you, Derek?
I am 35.
35. Last question. Something you wish you knew when you were 20.
Be more aggressive. Like go start. When I was 20, I was working at PlayStation, which was fun. Learned a lot, but I think I wish that I'd starting companies earlier.
Guys, haveignition.com. They help your go-to-market teams plan go-to-market, launch new products, for example. They've got 500 to 800 folks who are actively using the platform. They've converted some portion of those into paid users. They've got eyes on breaking $1 million run rate by the end of this year, maybe early January 2023. We'll see what happens. They've got 21 folks on their team right now spending all in headcount outside of founder salaries, about $150,000 per month. So healthy burn. They've raised 3.1 seed and another 1.8 pre-seed, so plenty of cash to work with to drive that growth. 17 of the 21 are engineers, so heavy engineering org. We'll see what happens next. Derek, thanks for taking us to the top.
Yeah, thanks a bunch.
One more thing before you go. We have a brand new show every Thursday at 1 p.m. Central. It's called Shark Tank for SaaS. We call it Deal or Bust. One founder comes on, 3 hungry buyers. They try and do a deal live, and the founder shares back-end dashboards, their expenses, their revenue, ARPU, CAC, LTV, you name it, they share it. And the buyers try and make a deal live. It is fun to watch every Thursday, 1 p.m. Central. Additionally, remember, these recorded founder interviews go live. We release them here on YouTube every day at 2 p.m. Central. To make sure you don't miss any of that, make sure you click the subscribe button below here on YouTube, the big red button, and then click the little bell notification to make sure you get notifications when we do go live. I wouldn't want you to miss breaking news in the SaaS world, whether it's an acquisition, a big fundraise, a big sale, a big profitability statement, or something else. I don't want you to miss it. Additionally, if you want to take this conversation deeper and further, we have by far the largest private Slack community for B2B SaaS founders. You want to get in there. We've probably talked about your tool if you're running a company or your firm if you're investing. You can go in there and quickly search and see what people are saying. Sign up for that at nathanlatka.com /Slack. In the meantime, I'm hanging out with you here on YouTube. I'll be in the comments for the next 30 minutes. Feel free to let me know what you thought about this episode. And if you enjoyed it, click the thumbs up. We get a lot of haters that are mad at how aggressive I am on these shows, but I do it so that we can all learn. We have to counter those people. We got to push them away. Click the thumbs up below to counter them and know that I appreciate your guys' support. All right, I'll be in the comments. See ya.